Did you know that Miraculous Ladybug came from a simple doodle? And I bet you have no idea how each of the characters came to be and evolved. Get ready, because this time we're gonna see the history and evolution of Miraculous Ladybug. The origins of Ladybug have a very curious story. Its creator, Thomas Astruc, was completely passionate about fictional stories. In his youth, he spent time reading books, comics, and graphic novels, so much that he could even connect with the characters themselves. But there were two genres that completely stole his heart: anime and superhero comics. From then on, he wondered, what would happen if these two were combined? Astruc continued his career as an artist and worked with several companies, creating stories and developing characters. On the outside, everything seemed to be going well, but on the inside, he felt trapped. He had only created stories and characters for others, never something for himself, something that belonged to him. And it is at this point where Astruc's story seems taken out of a fairy tale, or maybe a comic? One ordinary day, Thomas was at work, doing what he always did, creating and designing stories for the company. But suddenly he realized that one of his co-workers was wearing a peculiar shirt with a ladybug design. That shirt caused the greatest spark of imagination he had ever had in his life. He didn't know it yet, but the heroine he was about to create would completely change his world. It all started with a simple drawing on a sheet of paper. The first design of Marinette, made in 2004. And have you ever wondered why ladybugs? Well, in France there's the belief that ladybugs bring good luck. Their bright colors and peculiar design make them look more like a natural talisman. The curious thing about her design is that Thomas Astruc took several traits from the girl at his work to shape Marinette, like her hairstyle and some facial features. But no, unfortunately nothing is known about the girl who inspired Ladybug. She possibly preferred to remain anonymous, but here we leave you with a possible representation of her. But what was this first version of Ladybug about? Well, let's just say it wasn't 100% for kids. In fact, Thomas has planned that these stories would be made for adults. The concept was almost the same: a student with a double life, being kind and sweet by day, and fighting villains in an extreme and bloody way at night. That's right, Ladybug was gonna be the toughest and most violent heroine you could ever imagine. Finally, Astruc would fulfill his greatest dream of combining anime or manga with superhero comics. Only there was one big problem. The scenes and images presented by these Ladybug were too explicit. So, instead of companies being interested, they were actually scared. What they were looking for were stories made for the whole family that could be sold on a large scale. In the end, once again the companies wanted to manipulate Thomas's idea. Although the truth is that even he realized that his first idea was a little exaggerated. So he modified the stories and the focus, so that now it would be something that all people could watch. At this point is where Cat Noir was born. But did you know that the curious thing about his design and creation are related to Ladybug's design? If you remember, ladybugs symbolize good luck, so their counterpart would be... exactly, a black cat, a symbol of bad luck almost worldwide, thus creating the perfect duo. But the real opportunity for Ladybug to stop being just a sketch came when Astruc met Jeremy Sag, producer and founder of Sagtoon, a French studio that sought to create animated content for international audiences. Thomas took the chance and showed him all the sketches he had created for Ladybug, and Sag was fascinated with the idea and the visual style. Together, they began to develop the concept further, adding elements such as a more colorful and vibrant Paris, villains with unique powers derived from Akumas, magical butterflies capable of corrupting people, the concept of the miraculous, magical objects granted by small beings called kwamis that give powers to their holders, and a balance between action, comedy, and romance. Astruc also joined Method Animation to produce the series with globally competitive visual quality. So finally, in 2012, we had the first animated pilot of Miraculous Ladybug. Except it was practically an anime. The idea was presented to potential investors and entertainment tycoons, but the animation was rejected. The idea, the stories, and the characters were perfect. The only thing they did not agree with was the anime style. Back then, the Western entertainment industry was not so open to pure anime, especially out of fear of failure. For this reason, it was decided to switch to 3D animation, keeping the anime influence in expressions, but making it more attractive for the global market. In fact, there was only one company that was interested, SK Broadband Korea, who invested $10 million to boost the Miraculous project. It was official, Thomas's dream was finally gonna come true. But despite the budget, making the series was not so easy. In fact, it took them 3 years for Miraculous, the Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir to officially premiere in 2015. And this was because they took their work very seriously, since one of the things that took them the most time was recreating all the streets and buildings of Paris using real photos so that they would be recognizable to the public. The first episode that aired was Stormy Weather in Korea on September 15, 2015. But why Korea, if Ladybug was made in France? Well, remember those $10 million given by SK Broadband? Oh yeah. A month later, the series finally premiered in France on October 19th with the episode The Bubbler. The show became popular in the blink of an eye and gained an almost instant fan base. This achievement led to the series to be distributed in more than 150 countries and translated into dozens of languages. This was spectacular, since normally other shows take months or even years to be translated into other languages. The fan community grew even more, generating theories, fan arts, and of course, cosplay. In fact, the success was so huge that even in 2016, Netflix bought the rights to the first 3 seasons, without even knowing if more would be released in the future. And it was thanks to this success that Season 2 premiered at the end of 2017. Compared to the first season, the second one focused more on giving us a backstory. But the biggest change was that Felix was replaced by Adrien. This was because Felix was considered too cliché. His personality was too similar to that of an anime protagonist, and honestly, it didn't seem interesting long term. That's why they decided to create a mysterious bond between Adrien and Marinette. A fun fact is that this idea of mysterious romance was inspired by Lois and Clark from Superman. So yeah, even to this point we still have comic influence. And so, little by little, Felix was left out of Marinette's heart. Season 3 with 28 episodes released on December 1st, 2018 and brought one of the most sought-after treasures for fans, the episode Cat Blank, which was originally going to be released in the second season, but was cancelled and pushed to the third. This episode was gonna last a little over an hour, but it was cut down to 22 minutes so it could fit into TV format. To this day, the extended version has not been released to the public, which is a treasure many of us would love to see. And the success of Miraculous kept growing uncontrollably. So, on November 21st, 2020, we got the premiere of the special series Miraculous World, of which we've had 4 episodes so far. What's special about these episodes is that they last 50 minutes, and our heroes travel to different parts of the world to explore different cultures. After this special, we got Season 4, which was originally planned for 2020, but a certain virus delayed the release, and it ended up being launched in 2021. This one was key for Marinette's development, as she takes on the role of Guardian of the Miraculous, which increased her responsibility. Season 5 released in June 2022, brought drastic changes in relationships, and the plot became darker. The success took Miraculous beyond just television, expanding into comics, video games, a live musical, and even the big screen with the movie Miraculous Ladybug and Cat Noir the movie, released in 2023. In fact, it was an unexpected success as it grossed $40 million. And finally, in the 6th season released in January 2025, there was the first redesign of the characters since they were animes, which many loved, but others hated with passion. These designs look more detailed and polished. But I don't know about you. What do you think of these new designs? To this day, Thomas Astruc is still linked to Miraculous as creator and creative consultant. And although he has delegated part of the production to other teams, the series continues to expand, with plans for new seasons and specials. But tell me, what do you think about the evolution of Ladybug? We'll read you in the comments.